I want to change lives. I want to show people how to progress in their money. I want to show people how to progress in their mindset. I want to show people how to progress in their brand so that way they can take care of their family, take care of their finances, and experience freedom.
Well, Andy, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Oh, I don't know if you're more excited or if I'm more excited, but I'm pretty excited, man. I'm pretty excited.
I know you had just looking at how you are actually turning, or how you turned your life around, or what you made out of your life, right? College dropout, under 30, and taking the world by storm. Tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of a background.
So I'm originally raised on the East Coast, and it's interesting that you mentioned, like, hey, let's go a little bit deeper in the beginning of our call, where you said, hey, how do we go deeper? Like, let's go deeper in our call, which is dope, because doing all these podcasts, I'll do like 40 in a month, and doing all these shows, it's kind of like the same script that's kind of repeated. It's like, oh, raised in an impoverished area, started a business, left, moved to California, became a speaker, and now I host tours around the country. So let's go a little bit deeper. But on the surface level, I was raised in an impoverished environment in the smallest state, in the smallest city in that state, and it was about 1 square mile. So it was like a crabs in a bucket type of place, and I knew that for me, I wanted to be in a different environment that allowed me to thrive. It was very important that I put myself in a position where I can be in an environment that allows me to thrive. So I started listening to personal development, and after listening to people like Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, I got infused with this mindset of growth, of going to the next level. And there came a point in time where I realized that you're always growing, and if you're not growing, you're dead. So you're always growing, either upwards or downwards. Like you're always going somewhere. And so that's why that gave me this perception or this understanding that life is about progression. If you're going up, life is about progression. It's just about going to the next level. So there's no success where you end the journey. Success is a journey, and you're always going towards something. That's what progression is.
Yeah, totally agree. So how did you find personal development in that tiny place, in this tiny state?
I don't know, man. It might have been a Google search, and I said, success mindset. It's interesting, right? How much I've been infused with personal development over the last maybe 10 years, 8 years. Probably started off with Google search of like how to be successful.
Yeah.
So I go from listening to rap music, but how do I become successful? And then watching maybe someone's YouTube video of like how to become successful, and then they say a certain person's name, and that person, I end up going to search that person on YouTube, and then I found that person on YouTube, and I consume their content, and then I buy their book, and then I'm listening to their podcast. Next thing you know, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I love that. So that's for many people, they have this drive is in them, but they are in places where where this is not nourished, or where it's not taught. You have to do something yourself to figure it out. And Google is obviously a good place to go to start that journey. And then, as you said, one thing leads to the other. So right now you are in beautiful California. Your whole life has changed and is different. You're running your own business.
Yeah, I run a marketing firm, as well as I run Audate Enterprises, which is a seminar production company, and we produce seminars throughout the country. And then my business partner, who was just walking in, where I'm at the office right now, my business partner who was just walking, we run a progression marketing group, which is a content-based marketing firm that we edit content, and we edit content-based advertisement for people, so that way they can grow their subscribership, grow their customer base, and get more exposure in front of the masses.
Yeah, awesome. And you did that because you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, now looking back, I don't know if I didn't want to be an entrepreneur actually. When I was 19, so I'm 24 now, so this is like 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. Um, Someone who believed in me. We were leaving the gym. I was working at Metro PCS. So this let's backtrack even a little bit more than that. I'm working at Metro PCS. I need employees because I was 18 years old and I was a manager. I was a lead manager at a store. So I was doing so well in sales that they were like, hey, let's put this kid in management position. Maybe he could teach these older folks how to sell. So I get into management position and I'm leading people who are much older than 35, 40, 26, so on and so forth. And I needed employees. So my only mindset or like reach for relationships was my high school. So I hired somebody from my high school, gave him a job, and we were working out one day. And as we were leaving the gym, he said, "Man, like I believe in you, bro. Like to the point, I think you should open up your own cell phone store." And I was like, "Man, I don't think I should do that, bro. Like I'm 19, I'm overweight, I'm a college dropout, I live in the hood. There's no way I can become successful, okay?" And I was, I'm obviously laughing at myself. There's no way I can become successful. And he says, "Dude, like I believe in you, and you know what? I'll even work for you. Like let's do that. Like open up that business." And after overcoming some fear, overcoming some doubt, and experiencing the turmoil of like, man, I'm about to open up a business. Where am I gonna get the money from? I actually realized that I saved $7,000 in a college fund, and I had $200 in my bank account, but this fund over here that I didn't have access to for a while had 7 grand in it. So I took that money out and I opened up my first cell phone store. Within a year and a half, I made my first $1 million, and I had 4 locations and I had 14 people working for me. So at this time, I'm 21, made all this money, and what do you do when you live in a place that snows all the time and the people aren't too happy, and you look around you and you're like, man, like this is not thriving, this is not success, this is not what I envisioned to be success. What do? You go to California, So
Of course.
so I took a bunch of money. I shut down the locations and I said, look, I'm 21. I'm more focused on me than I am on a business, because I believe I was so egotistical that I was like, I could do this anywhere, because I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was my first introduction to success or business. So because of that experience, I was like, fuck it, I'll go do it in California, man. I'll go but before I moved, I wrote down what I call values of toil. So for your audience, you want to write this down: values of toil. The values of toil was the characteristic of how I want to live my life, of how I wanted my business to be. So there was a few things that I had on that list that I remember I wrote it down. I had an office, so I had 4 stores and an office, like a central point. We would house all the phones, all the employees would come there for team meetings. And I'm sitting there with one of the store managers, Joe. And I said, Joe, man, like, what would an ideal life look like, man? And I said to him, man, I got money, but I can't travel. I can't really travel the way I want to travel. And he said, I want to travel too. I said, well, he asked me, why can't I travel? I said, I can't travel because I'm stuck in this state because I have cell phone stores. Like, I'm not big enough to the point where I can just walk away and everything's going to be fine for 2 months. I can't do that. I'm not there yet. We're doing very well for ourselves, but I still got to come in and fix problems every single day. That's what I'm doing. I'm a problem solver for the business. So I said, I want a business where I can travel, where I'm not stuck in one state or one territory. I can go anywhere I want to. I want a business where I can have an office, but people can work out of the office, but I don't have to be there. I want a business where I'm internationally known. And I wrote down those characteristics. So when I came to California and I had to choose what I was going to do for my life, I went back on those characteristics.
Yeah, that's wonderful to get really, really clear what you want, because otherwise how you're going to take action steps if you don't know what you want your life to look at like.
Yeah, you got to be clear on the vision, on the way that your life is going to look like. You got to get so clear that when you're not experiencing it, you can look at the situation and you can say, this will stay, this will leave. This will stay, this will leave. That's what we call the difference between an ideal scene and a current scene or a current situation. That the ideal situation is that I'm traveling. The ideal situation is, I have money in the bank. The ideal situation is, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have my husband, whatever. Then you have the current situation, which is, you could be single, you could be broke, you could be no employees, you could be, by yourself, you could not be thriving, or whatever the situation is. And what is it that you got to change to connect the two?
Yeah. So what did you do just for people to understand that might be struggling in their business with their sales? What did you do to start a cell phone store and then to get yourself to 4 stores in such a short time and making over $1 million? What's the mindset required?
So it's to get out there. And I think when I say get out there, it's different for everybody. So it might be different for me or what it looks like to get out there. So when I had my first location, it was a kiosk. So I don't remember, it was like a few $1,000 or whatever a month. It was like a kiosk. And in this kiosk, I had 9 phones. And it was generic phones. It was what they call blue phones. So I couldn't afford an iPhone because out of the $7,000 that I had for capital, for me to buy one iPhone would cost $1,000 or nearly $1,000. And then so imagine me having being just walking around with seven iPhones. That's exactly what I had. So I had to allocate the money correctly. So I bought cheap phones that will cost, or inexpensive phones that cost like $30, $50, $100, so on and so forth. So I had 9 phones in my inventory, and believe me, when I placed those phones, I moved them and I placed them correctly because it was my 9 phones. Now my first goal was to sell these phones, because once I sell it, I can re-up, get new phones, and take the profit. So what I did was I waited for people at my kiosk to come and buy a phone. And I'm at my computer waiting for people, and nobody shows up. So I'm like, you know what? I gotta get seen. I gotta get in front of people. So I go from behind the kiosk, go in front of the kiosk, and people are walking by, and I'm like, hello, how are you doing? People are walking by, hello, how are you? Welcome, thank you for coming, thank you for stopping by. Like I'm in the kiosk, so people are already walking by in the middle of the mall, but nobody stops and buys a phone. Now I got a couple of days until rent's due, man. I got to rent for the next month. I can't go broke I can't be broke for 30 days, So I'm like, yo, I got to start getting customers. So what I did was I greeted. My first step is to greet. So I walk up to a customer. I say, hey, I'm Andy Audate. How are you? And they say, I'm good, but I'm not interested. I said, oh, no problem. I would say, what phone do you have? And then they would say, oh, I have an iPhone. I would say, okay, have you thought about upgrading? And they would say, no, I'm not interested. I'm good, thank you, and walk away. So I said, shit, you know what? I got to change my tactic. So you know what? I started doing the silent greet. Because what happened is in the mall, the staff would say, hey, the mall executive will say, hey, you can't go and grab people. You can't do that. How are you going to tell me I can't go and grab people? But I get it, because they have a whole bunch of kiosks. If everyone was going and grabbing people wouldn't come to the mall, and then therefore the mall would close. So I did a silent greet where essentially I would lower my voice to the point where people can't hear me. So people are literally, 150 feet away from me, and I would be like, hey! And I start mumbling, and I start literally, I'm over here talking like this, and people are like, what are you saying? And naturally, what they'll do is they'll get closer to hear what I'm saying. So they're like, oh, wait, what are you saying? What are you saying? So they get closer to me, and then I would say, no, what I asked you was, do you have T-Mobile or AT&T? And I would ask a question that wasn't so so intrusive. I'm asking about data that doesn't go into, I'm not gonna ask them hey, what's your social security number? That's too intrusive. I haven't built my relationship, so I started with a bigger gap in the greet. Is I go for a less intrusive question. So if your people are writing notes, you gotta take notes on this. I ask a less intrusive question, and then the more I build a relationship, the more intrusive the question becomes. So before I ask them for their social security number, I ask them a huge question like, hey, do you have T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon? Out of the big characters, carriers, which one do you have? And they'll say, oh, I got T-Mobile. I said, oh, T-Mobile, okay, I know T-Mobile. Which phone do you have? Is it the iPhone or the Android? And they'll say, so now it's very important to ask questions that, what is it? I forgot how they call it, but it's like, they don't have like they gotta choose one of the answers. I think it's called a tie down. Like they gotta choose one of the answers. You can't be like, hey, what phone do you have? Out of all the millions of phones in the world, you can't just be like, what phone do you have? So you gotta give them an option. So I'll give them stuff. So I'll give them options like, you have an iPhone or Android? Oh, I have an iPhone. Okay, great. Hey, which iPhone do you have? iPhone 6. Okay, great. How does that look like? Can you pull it out? And they pulled it out. I put it in my hand. I put it right in my pocket. I say, I got something for you. So I grab their phone. Now they're forced to follow me. So that now I transition to another step called the qualify. So I'm qualifying them to see A, if they're a good fit for my product, and B, if I'm a good fit or if my product is a good fit for them. So I'm asking questions that would qualify them to see if this is a good fit. How long have you had your phone? Are you interested in upgrading? Have you upgraded before? When's the last time you upgraded? So I'm qualifying them. Based on the information that I get, I then present a solution. So I greeted, I qualified, then I present the solution. So you have the iPhone 6. The iPhone X, you heard about it before, right? Yes, I have. Okay, great. The iPhone X, based on what you shared about me and you and your kids when you go play soccer, based on what you shared, that's the most important thing that you want. So the iPhone X has this many megapixels on the camera. It has this many quad-core processors. So that way it's gonna focus on and produce your content much faster than your current phone is. So your kid, when you take a picture, it's actually faster and allows you to save that memory. How happy would little Tommy be with mommy having more pictures of him? Oh, he'll be mad. He'll be really happy. I say great. Then I transition to the clothes. I said, great, so we have two options to get you the phone today. You can finance it, or you can pay out up front. Which one do you want them to do? Remember, I'm giving them the tie down. I can choose which one. I wanna finance it. Okay, great. So we have $40 down payment or $60 down payment. Which one do you want? $40. Okay, great. Where's your social security number? Do you see the process that I took? Less intrusive.
Yeah.
Go to the close, greet, qualify, present, and close. And so once I started doing that and started building that confidence, that's what literally was able to take my business from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, and I love how you just shared building your confidence, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and making sure that the service fits both parties, right? It's a good match for you. It's a good match for them as well. So what was actually the very first thing that you ever sold in your life?
I was ever sold in my life?
The very first thing you ever sold in your life?
I sold my mom on me going out, taking her car, if we're talking about products, man, I think one of the that I remember was me selling lemonade. I either sold lemonade or I sold candy. I'm pretty sure I sold candy in school, but I remember selling lemonade where my mom was not trying to give me money, and I said, you know what? I went to my fridge at the house, and there were some plastic cups that my mom had for parties that we would just leave in the pantry. So I said, you know what? I grabbed the house lemonade that the family was drinking out of, and I took it and I went outside and I put a little table, and I was just at the corner of a dead-end street. My street was a dead-end street. So 6 people would pass by, throughout the whole day. And I'm at the corner hey, I seen people on the internet do it. That's what happens to people on social media. When they see other successful people do something positive or well, and they say, you know what? I think I could do the same thing. So, I'm at this young age, probably 6th grade, and I go outside and I'm on a dead end. 6 people pass by the whole entire day. So I spend an hour outside, nobody walks by. I'm like, why isn't it working for me? I have a lemonade, I have the cups, and I have this table with the wood chipping away, but it doesn't matter. The table's outside, and I'm imagine 11-year-old chubby Andy out there looking for people yo, are you guys gonna come and buy the lemonade? So one of my neighbors who would walk with her daughter, they would walk around the block a couple of times for their daily exercise. She came around and she bought one, and then I sold my first cup of lemonade, and then I got mad, so I drank the rest.
How did it feel when somebody actually gave you money for your first lemonade?
I was like, yo, man, I came out and they gave me $1. I'm gonna go take this dollar and make more dollars. Then there was a time that my dad he came to my bedroom. I was laying down, and he said, Andy, I'm going to go to New York. Do you want me to buy you anything? Because when my dad goes to New York, that's essentially code for I'm going to go buy some clothes, and I'm going to go buy cheap clothes in New York. Because in New York, you could buy clothes for like $1. Like in the hood, you could buy clothes for like $1, 50 cents, stuff like that. So I said, Dad, can you get me the Nike Air Forces, the black ones with the mid tops with the swoosh swoosh, like the Velcro with the swoosh swoosh? Can you get me those? And then he asked me for my size, and I gave him my size, and then he went to New York. A couple of days later, he comes back from New York with a bunch of clothes because he's sending this clothes to Haiti now, to our family back home in Haiti. So he comes with a bunch of clothes, and there's no Nike Air Forces. And I'm like, yo, Dad, I thought I was going to be the coolest person in school. Like, I'm envisioning what I'm going to wear with the Nike Air Forces. Like, I'm going to be, like, swagged down. I'm going to be that guy in school. Like, where's my Nike Air Force? I don't see them in the bags. He's like, oh, I didn't get them, man. I didn't get them. Why didn't you get them? It's too much money, man. It's $160. I said, yeah, but I thought you were going to give me the Nike Air Forces, man. You know what? I got to figure it out myself, man. I realized at that moment, I can't just depend on people. I got to go get it myself. So I went across the street. It was snowing at this time. And I went across the street and I asked my neighbor, I said, hey, John, can I shovel your yard? I'll put all the snow to the corner, pay me $10. He said, I'm all set, Andy, I have a snowblower. And I was devastated. I was like, man. He said, no. So I went to the neighbor next door, and I said, hey, Martin, Mr. Martin, can I shovel for you? He said, no, we're all set, Andy. I'm going to do it myself. I'm like, man, I'm looking across the street at my house, and I'm saying, man, I should just go home. Then I look to his neighbor, to Martin's neighbor, and I look at them, and I say, you know what? I'm going to go ask them. So I go ask, and then they gave me $10. So I said, okay, it is possible. That's the first thing that I had to know. Number one, that it was possible. Number two, $10 was not enough to get me the sneakers that I wanted. So I kept on going around the block, and then I went around the block, and I went to enough properties to get 16 deals, and I got the $160 that I needed for the sneakers. I went home, I put the money on my bed, and I grabbed my iron, and I cleaned. I just made the money look real pretty. Like I just flattened it out. Imagine like this guy who's like 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, like ironing. I closed my door, but my door was jacked up. So even though I closed it and locked it, you can still open it from outside sometimes. So my mom comes in and opens the door, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I feel like I'm a drug dealer. Like I'm like, "Oh, I got the money, you know." And I moved the money, and I'm like this small 10-year-old guy. And but I didn't want to buy the sneakers because now it was my money. I know what it took to buy the sneakers. I was like, I don't want to buy the sneakers, man. I just want to keep the money. Then I wanted to scale that business essentially. So I went to my friend at school and I said, hey man, I made $160 yesterday. He said, how you do that? I said, I went door to door. I said, why don't you come work with me? So me and him started this business where we started shoveling people's yard and we would split the money. I was able to hit more doors with his help. Then because I got the help, we kept it going to the fall, where we went from doing snow, and then the summer came. And now we were cleaning up the leftover of the leaves that fell and so on and so forth. So we were raking people's leaves and so on and so forth. So we kept that business, and I became a young entrepreneur.
Wow, what a story. I just love it. We're running out of time for this wonderful episode, but I want to make sure that we send people to progressionticket.com to check out your site, and I have all the links to you also in the show notes, so it's just one click away. Yeah, Progression Ticket. Essentially, now that you hear that, that's kind of like the beginning of my story. I did the cell phone thing. Then now what I realize is that people need the opportunity to learn how to do it on themselves, like to learn how do you make $1 million. Like it's not about the money or the business. It's actually the mindset. So the Progression Conference allows people to have that mindset. So when I came to California, I became a speaker. Now I host seminars teaching the mindset of how to literally revolutionize your life. And that's what Progression Ticket
progressionticket.com is. And now we're going through every city in the country, and soon we'll be coming to Germany.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I can't wait for our next interview. I have so many more questions. So let's send people to progressionticket.com. And if that's too complicated, just go to the show notes and you will find all the resources there. And, just, it's one click away to Andy. Just hop on over, click, and check it out.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. progressionticket.com. Thank you so much.
So I'm so excited to have you back on the show, and you're welcome.
Man, I'm excited to be back on the show, baby. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. So we talked about your first business endeavors as a child, really making sure, because you wanted the Nike sneakers, that you had to show up for yourself and to do something to get the money in. Then you got the money, and then you figured that, well, maybe so hard earned, you might not want to spend it on sneakers. But you also understood that there is a system, so you started your first little company together with a friend, helping neighbors shovel snows, and really make a difference and support them with their properties.
Right.
And then, it just went on and on. So do you think that there is such a person, like a natural salesperson?
I don't know. I just think that people want, it's like what do you want the most, and are you willing to give up fear? Like, what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up your dreams, or are you willing to give up fear? So you got to kind of make a choice. Like, oh, you know what? Because I just saw a post on social media recently, and it was like, the post said something like you have to believe in one of the two, faith or fear, and both of them you can't touch. Both of them are absent. So like, which one are you gonna believe in, faith or fear? And it's a choice. So I think with that being said, it's kind of like with sales and with especially what you do in your organization with your clients. It's about overcoming that fear and say, I have faith. I have faith in myself. I have faith in my product. I have faith in the customer. And I have in bridging that gap. Like, I have the product here. I have the faith to my right. I have the product here. I have the product to my left. I have the customer to my right. And in between, I have faith, which is that the customer will buy. So, in presencing faith, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the work to get the customer to buy.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for an entrepreneur just starting?
I think the biggest challenge is self-belief, and you have to create systems. You see, if you actually break down the word discipline, discipline is about following a system. I used to think that discipline means that you are mentally strong. No, discipline actually just means that I follow a system. So at school, are you disciplined? Do you follow the rules? So you have to create your own rules. And so one of the things that I see that breaks down entrepreneurs, especially new ones, is that belief. So when I was 19, that I shared in the previous podcast, and I opened up my first business, I didn't have belief in myself. So I took someone else's belief and I used their belief on me to literally allow me to open up my own business. But had that person not be there, I probably wouldn't be where I am today if that person didn't have belief in me. Now, however, that's a great scenario for my life, but sometimes you might not have someone to believe in you. So what you need to do is you need to believe in you. And how do you believe in you? The way you believe in you is you create a system that allows you to have belief. So the system that I have, because now there's a lot more people that believe in me, but I'm going past the limits of what people's belief in me is. So I got to believe in myself at a greater amount than everyone else. So everyone might believe me to, Andy's at level 5 right now, but Andy could definitely be at level 7. And in my head, I'm like, no, I could be at level 15. But there's only 10 levels, Andy. I'm going to create another 5. And so the system that I use is I remind myself of how powerful I am, and I give myself daily affirmations. Like, there is nothing that can bring me down besides myself. So one of the affirmations I share, do you recognize how sexy I am? Like, I'm one of the most sexiest men alive. And I use the affirmation. I embody the affirmation. I walk around and I'm like, man, did you see that woman? She looked at me. I think she recognized how sexy I am. And someone might look at me and say, no, dude, you have a ketchup stain on your shirt. I said, oh, but I'm still sexy though. Regardless, I remind myself of how great I am, how amazing I am, how powerful I am. That's number one. Number two, I acknowledge my progression. I acknowledge how far I have come from where I once was as a 16-year-old boy living in a hood in an impoverished environment where bloodstains took up the floor in the cement and gunshots were heard and nobody shook and nobody was afraid because that was so normal. That was where I was, but now I'm living in California. My house is literally 0.9 miles from where LeBron James plays at the Staples Center, where the Lakers play, and I'm living in a different lifestyle. So I recognize my progression, so I acknowledge myself, and I say, Andy, you created that. Of course with God's help, but you created that. So you recognize your progression, and you recognize your power. No one can stop you. There is nothing in this world that's bigger than you in your mind, in your world.
Do you have a morning routine? Do you have something you can advise people to do? Because when maybe they're just starting out, but they now say, well, I'm really great at sales. I enjoy sales, but the truth is they don't, and they don't really know how to get themselves to do that. What could you recommend?
Man, what could I recommend? Because everyone is different. And I think I don't have the only thing I do in the morning is it's like every morning it's like I thank God when I go to bed I just lay down and I just like thank you for the day, Lord, like that's that, and wake up like thank you for the day, because there's people in my circle that have passed away. There are people in my circle that are in prison right now for the rest of their life, and then they probably won't come out in the next 4 generations, the next 5 generations. They won't come out of prison, so they'll be behind walls. And I laid my head down and I recognize the freedom that I have and the opportunity. Every time I walk into my apartment, I say, I have such an opportunity right now. Like, do you recognize the opportunity that you have just by being alive, that you have on this podcast, just by you have with listening to this? You have an opportunity of a lifetime, and it's life. So take the opportunity of life and take advantage of it. So it's not really a system or a routine for that aspect, but it's definitely a mindset that nothing can stop me. Like, I'm not even a fucking human being. And when I work out in the morning, I work out at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. And the people that I work out with, because I'm a leader in that environment, I made it a custom to share I'm not a human being. When I would lift weights, I'm not a human being. That takes me out of the human experience, which the human experience wants to feel comfortable. The human experience feels fear and acknowledges fear and does as fear says, which is a submission to fear. That's human being stuff. I'm not a human being. So I recognize that, and I share that with myself. So these affirmations that I continually, what I essentially do is I give myself the affirmations that are opposite of what I feel. So if I feel comfortable, hey bro, you're not a human being, like do something to get uncomfortable right now and go to the next level in your life.
Yeah, so you're cheering you on all the time. Or do you think it's good to have like this harmony and balance in your life, or are you just pushing all the time? What do you think?
So there's people in my circle that say fuck balance. All right, say there's no fuck balance. But I think what happens is not actually shared what they're talking about, because what balance means to me might be different to you, it might be different to your listener. So harmony, I think, would be the best way to make it work. Yesterday, this is some real stuff. Yesterday, I had I'm questioning even if I should put it out there, but you did ask me to go a little deeper. So yesterday, there's a woman in my life that gave me so much love and affection that I actually repelled it. I actually pushed it away, and I focused on my business more than I did on her. And that was like one of my mistakes. And I'm sure that many successful businessmen end up having that, where they push away their kids, they push away their wife. And I just happened to have that experience at a young age. She wasn't my wife, she wasn't a child. So So, but I pushed her away, and I realized what I was doing. And I looked at the past. I laid down on my bed thinking about the past of our relationship, and I said, "Yo, like, what took us downhill? Like, what is it that took us downhill?" And it's like as if it was like a black and white movie that played in my head. All the times that she came to me like, "Hey, I got, let's hang out," and I'm like, "I gotta work." Oh, hey, let's talk about this, or this is what I'm going through, Andy. And I'm like, "Yeah, I gotta work." And then when I would want to get away from work, that's when I would go to her and be like, "Hey, what do you want to do? Let's go do something." And she'd be like, "Oh, I thought you had to work." Like, so that really broke our relationship. So I'm madly in love with the woman. However, we haven't been together in a year. We've been separated for maybe like a year and a half now. And for the first time in a year, I got to see her yesterday. And I said to her, I know where I went wrong. I was trying to have it balanced, where I would have a percentage given to you and a percentage given to this at certain times. And I realized that's not life. So what that could look like. So I think where a lot of the gurus or whatever you want to call them, when they talk about balance, they don't really share it effectively. So I'm going to share it with you effectively here for your audience for the first time ever, probably on social media, on the internet, forever. But essentially, what it looks like is that I get to do the both and. This is a mindset. I get to do the both and. So when I'm talking to my woman, how do I make my business operate effectively and efficiently and still talk to her? How do I work out and my business still run, or my wife be happy? There's a process and a system that you have to use. So here's something that, but you got to be cognizant. You have to recognize that it's going to happen. So in my company, I have about 23 employees. In my organization, it's very imperative that the team knows where Andy's at all times, right? So my vice president just walked by over here, so he knows, like, hey, Andy's currently doing an interview. Right before I got on this call with you, Christine, my assistant and my sales and marketing manager are recognizing that, hey, they see my calendar. They say, hey, he's on a podcast. Do not contact him at this time, but hold your questions off. So this allows them to know what to expect. Because what could happen if it's not harmonious, what could happen is that they try to hit me up and I'm like, hey, no, I'm busy right now. And as they're trying to enter into a conversation or communication, I push them away. So how do I get to do the podcast and get their questions answered and have them feel a certain way? I create systems. So you have to have a system and be disciplined in the system that you have in your whole entire organization. And your organization could be your life, or just you as one person, which is an organism. You are one organism. Or your whole organization, which is your house, or your organization as your company. You have to have systems.
Yeah, and you have to create them, and you have to stick with them to make them work.
And you have to stick with them to make them work. So it's not about balance. Balance is gonna throw you off. Balance is when between 10 and 5, I love you. Between 9 to 5, between 9 to 5 I'm at work. Between 5 to 9, 9 to 5 I'm at work. Between 5 to 9, I love you. Between 10 and 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm sleeping. Don't talk to me. That's the balance. Harmonious is that, hey, my girl can come walk in, right? So if I had a girlfriend, right, or if I had a woman during this time in my life, she could walk in, and it takes confidence to do this. She could walk in and say, hey, instead of me saying, no, I'm on a podcast, can't talk to you right now, I say, hey, come meet Christine. And then I'll say, hey, Christine, this is my girlfriend, so-and-so. And what do you think about this? And I could ask her a question, and that would still add a value to the audience. That's harmony versus balance.
Well, that's the end. It's inclusive.
It's inclusive. I like the way you put it. It's inclusive.
Yeah. So, do you have a bad day once in a while?
Of course. Every day is a bad day.
Every day is a bad day.
Every day is a bad day.
If you don't make it good.
No, every day is a bad. If you think about it, every day is like there's always something wrong. But also every day is a good day too. So like I came to the office at 7:30 and I'm dealing with problems. So I'm like, oh shit, it's a fucking bad day. And then I'm on a podcast with Christine. Oh damn, it's a good day. So it's you recognizing that there's ups and there's downs. So there's no bad day or good day. It's just what it is. It's a day.
Yeah. So when it's like not going so well, what do you do to make you feel better?
It depends
Let's.
how challenging it is. So if it, but what I typically do is like, yo, this is gonna be a great story. Like this is like whatever your challenge is, this is gonna be great. When I share a podcast, this is gonna be great. Like the challenge that I'm going through right now, like if it's really bad, if it's really challenging, this is gonna be really. I can't wait to get on Christine's podcast in 2021 and share this story that I'm going through today. Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be dope. Like how I'm gonna tell the podcasters like how I overcame this. How I overcame this challenge. Depending on how bad it is. If it's as bad as like, hey, a client decided to not work with you, then hey man, so be it.
Yeah, I love that mindset. So what would you do like if somebody is not really strong in sales yet and they kind of get over the fear, they start calling or knocking on doors or going out there to have conversations, and then after the, let's say like the fifth no, they kind of get a little bit discouraged. What would you tell them?
So do they have a? Who am I talking to? The actual person or the leader?
Well, you're talking to the person that wants to be better in sales and wants to be a leader.
So because I'm a leader and I deal with that on a daily basis, I have to give them analogies based on stuff that they can understand. So one of my new sales reps, right? She has kids. She has a toddler and a baby. So I don't know, maybe one is just walking, the other one's like crying and baby. So I'm gonna give her an analogy saying that, hey, let me ask you a question. If Blue, which is the son's name, the walking, if Blue started walking and he fell down, like he got on his feet, which is like you getting on the phone, and he fell down and he started to cry, would you tell Blue? You say, you know what, Blue? You don't need to walk anymore. Just quit. Just quit. Just quit while you're ahead. Just quit. As time is not gonna stop for you, so just quit. And he'll be 60 years old and he won't walk. Is that how you want to raise your son? No. What would you tell Blue? Get up and keep going. Eventually you'll get it. You told yourself the secret then. I'll tell you, and then I share with them the stories that I've experienced. Like, hey, I don't close like right before this call, and I was doing the team meeting, and this is a great example of harmony, right? So we have a team meeting with my leadership team every day at 9:30, and so I'm getting ready for the call, and we use a chat company for the whole organization to chat. So I get on a group chat with them. I say, hey, you guys can hop on the Zoom call. I'll be in 5 minutes. So I'm anticipating I'm gonna close this deal in 5 minutes. And what happens is that I don't close a deal in 5 minutes. Like I'm still, conversing and presenting the solution and trying to close the deal. And then so what I did was I told them I'm gonna be on the computer in 5 minutes on the Zoom call in 5 minutes. So I got onto the Zoom call and I muted my laptop. And I was presenting the solution, and they heard me. They're hearing me, and this is like the first time that they're hearing me with this intense negotiation. I'm talking about we're going back and forth on minute stuff, but it's intense. And they hear me, and I'm like, hey guys, when you schedule an appointment with a prospect, this is what I go through in the negotiation, just so you guys know. And so to them it's valuable, but also to me it was the opportunity for harmony to teach them what I'm doing, but also do the both and.
Yeah, and to, I think as a leader, they have to see how you do things so they know that you are doing what you're asking for as well.
Right. But to answer your question, it's definitely to give the knowledge that they understand that they got to keep going. Sales is a numbers game. Right now, like after I get off this call, I got a call in 9 minutes with a client to present a solution to them. So it's a numbers game, and it's about hitting as many people. There's another salesperson in my organization that they've been holding on to one lead for a week and 3 days. I'm talking about the opportunity to present the solution or the opportunity to present the offer was on that same day. But instead they wanted to drag it on for a week and 3 days, and I said, hey, there's consequences with that. Like you dragged on this opportunity for a week and 3 days. There's consequences, And that's because there's a lot of knowledge gathering before action is taken. In my organization, I say one of the terms that we have is action before knowledge. It's like a principle that we live by. Why? The reason why is because if I was supposed to be knowledgeable, then I would still be in college right now trying to figure out business and saying, hey, one day I might own a business. I'll be millions of dollars short than what I am, experiences short of what I am, living on the East Coast because I wouldn't have been able to afford California, living below my potential because I was trying to get knowledge before I took action. And guess what? Knowledge is like a waterfall. There's always more coming. There's always more knowledge. So if you think you're trying to fit it all into your brain and then take action, you're gonna die regretting yourself because you never took action. So knowledge, action before knowledge.
Yeah, I love the action taking piece. I always say stop just dreaming, act now, because nobody's gonna deliver your dreams while you sit on your couch.
Exactly.
So, is there any book that has influenced you that you would like to recommend for people to read?
No More Average.
No More Average.
Yeah, you can actually get that book at nomoreaveragebook.com. It's a book that I wrote, but this book is one of the books that when I'm in a situation, in a funk, I open up my own book, because that mindset that I shared was one of the purest. I was in the purest mindset at that time. So comes a time where when you're constantly getting defeated or you're constantly getting hit and things get rough, you start questioning, like, should I keep going? Should I get a job? Should I go after my goals and my dreams? Should I still, what should I do? I have a mentor of mine, but he shares with me essentially that he gets a lot more value than I do from him. And I said, how? What do we talk? Well, essentially, my youth of knowledge, my youth of experience, compared to the 40 years that he's been beat down and trying to win. I mean, he's a multi-millionaire, but to get to that level, you experience a lot of mindset challenges and pushes from the economy and so on and so forth. You don't get easier because you make more money. It gets harder. So he says he hangs with me because I'm so excited about life. I'm so excited about going to the next level. So I read my own book and I say, man, the fact that it came from me, number one, it means a lot. But number two, what I share comes from a youth, childlike mentality of going after your goals. And if you follow the principles, you're going to start producing results that you never experienced before. That doesn't mean you're not going to feel challenges. You're still going to feel them, but you're going to overcome them much easier with a mindset like a child. So I come from a childlike experience in that book. So nomoreaveragebook.com.
Yeah, love it. And I'm going to put it in the resource section as well. So let's send people to the progression ticket and just let us know what it is, what people can expect, and why they should go there.
So I created a seminar called the Progression Conference. The Progression Conference is a one-day business event focused on three things: sales, marketing, and personal development. And we hone in on that because we recognize me as in all the speakers in the organization. We have a belief and an understanding that if your finance increases, then you can spend more time with your family. And if you're spending more time with your family and your loved ones, you're experiencing freedom. So we focus on finance so that way you can spend time and love with your family so you can experience freedom for your life.
Love it. So it's progressionticket.com.
Progressionticket.com. You see the way I say it too? The way I say it is like as if it's for an advertisement. Like, welcome to progressionticket.com. Like it's funny how I say it, man. I'm a complete advertiser, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate this conversation. And I love the energy you showed up with and what you have already accomplished in your life. And I can't wait to, hear more and see more of your success. So thank you so much for having been with us on Hard Says Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It was such a blessing and an opportunity.